Hi, Ron. First of all, any update on Taylor and his injury, and as well as Terry, and trying to think of the other guys that went out. Leno, okay?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Taylor's a little sore today, obviously, and we'll continue to monitor him. Terry is in the protocol, and we'll continue to monitor him. Tyler is getting an MRI today, and we'll know more about his injury as we go forward. And then Leno came out of it a little gimpy, but he should be fine.
Okay. And I know we kind of ask you this every week, but given how thin you guys were at multiple spots yesterday, do you worry there's a point where the injuries, the health issue just become insurmountable?
Well, I wouldn't say it's insurmountable, but it most certainly will test your depth more so than anything else. And that's where you get concerned, because our, we've lost our top two centers right now. So that is a little concerning as far as the offensive line is concerned. But, the guys that have stepped up and played have done a pretty good job. That first half, I thought offensively came out a little flat, a little tired. It's been a heck of a 4 weeks prior to that for those guys playing the way they had. But, I think at the end of the day, that first half just kind of caught up to us a little bit.
Okay, there I am. Ron, kind of playing off what Nikki was saying about, how much more you can withstand all that. Why do you think it hasn't had a bigger toll to date yet?
Well, I think because of the depth we have is pretty good, but I think the coach has done a nice job with our guys. I think got to give credit to those guys. I think they've been working with them really well. For the most part, we've been relatively fresh until this week. This past week was tough. It really was. If you take into account the 4 games prior and coming off of a Monday night and going cross country and then coming back, that was tough on our guys. And they started a little slow, but I love the way they finished. I love the energy in which they played the fourth quarter, giving themselves a chance to win.
And then also, how do you balance when you have a game like yesterday, and there were a lot of issues in that first half, especially on offense? How do you balance when you talk to your team, getting them in the right mind frame to go forward with a positive mindset and, hey, you finish stronger versus making sure those things don't happen again and getting your message across that way?
Well, this was really to come down and look at. There were some little detail things that when you really look at them and really, just kind of connect the dots, you see it. And it's something that most certainly is correctable. Still disappointing because, on the other end, if we had made those plays, they could have been good plays for us. They really could have. And it was on both sides. Actually, in all 3 phases, we had a couple of kick returns that, man, if we seal a guy and then block another guy, DeAndre's out the door, and it comes down to just those little detail things. And, we had some new guys in some spots. But still, we try to coach them up, and we got to give them opportunities, and we're that close in spite of the fact that we've had to plug in a few different guys.
Hey, Ron. Curtis Samuel only plays 14 snaps yesterday after just going 20 in each of the previous 2. It seemed like he was progressing. Was this some sort of injury step back, or did you guys just decide to be even more cautious with him?
No, I think it came down to play calling more and personnel calling more than anything else. He's a guy that we got to get the ball in his hands and get him rolling, and so we'll work on that.
Okay. To the broader question of injuries and things like that. Obviously, you guys have been shorthand on your training staff now for some time. You said before that you had coaching interns come in to help, but obviously the reason you have a full training staff is to deal with things like you're dealing with now, all these injuries. So where do things stand with that? And how do you think you guys have been able to do considering the injuries are continuing to pile up?
Well, we've had a full training staff and they've been doing a pretty good job. You just can't account for the injuries that we've had. We've had several guys in the concussion protocol. You can't account for that. We're not going to skip guys out of the protocol before it's time to get them out. There are some things that are beyond our control, no matter how many people you have in your training staff. We've had season-ending injuries that you can't account for, and that's not the staff's fault. So as far as that's concerned, I shouldn't feel like I have to defend them because I think they've done a great job getting guys back on the field, but there are just some things that we can't account for. Concussions are one of them, and season-ending injuries are the other one. And as far as that's concerned too, we really can't account for what happens with the protocols as far as COVID is concerned.
Ron, as well as the guys that have done in that sort of next man up mentality, are there areas when you watch back that you do notice that drop off now because so many guys are out?
Well, I wouldn't say as much drop off as much as experience, and you can see the guys that are playing have limited experience, and sometimes those mistakes pop up. Those are things that you can only learn through experience, and guys have to understand that when you get that opportunity, you got to take advantage of it. You got to be ready to take advantage of it. Do I think we have some talented young players? Yeah, I do, and I think they need to get experience. They need to understand what it takes.
And Taylor indicated yesterday that it was his elbow that was also bothering him. I'm just wondering, how is that today? And then also, did you notice that affect his play at all when we watch it film?
No, he was pretty sore though afterwards. He threw that deep ball to Terry that was almost caught by Terry, which was almost another tremendous play that he made. And then he threw the other one to Cam Sims for the touchdown. So it's sore, but I don't think it affected his ability to throw the ball downfield.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron, during the win streak, I think the offensive line really performed well. Yesterday seemed like maybe a step back, or is that a testament to Dallas's talent on the defensive line, or did something happen that you weren't thrilled with out there?
Well, I think there's, got to give them credit. First and foremost, you don't ever want taken away from your opponent, but at the same time, there are some things that we could have done better. Most certainly, I do believe that. And as I said earlier, I thought in that first half we were a little tired. We kind of got it going in the second half, and as things started to progress, you saw us start to win the blocks. You start to move the ball. So there are some things that we most certainly will shore up and work on, and hopefully in the meantime we'll get a few more guys back on the football field, and we'll see what happens.
And then defensively, how much does it change when you're able to get Landon back on the field? Does that impact where you use Jamin also?
It does. It impacts how we use a few other guys in the defense as well. Cam Curl being one of them, Jamin being another one of them, and our different sub packages that we use as well that either include him or exclude him. But it does, having him out there, I think, helps us as a football team.
Thanks.
This is the third straight week where your opponent has significantly more rest than you. Obviously, we addressed that when the schedule came out, but are you feeling the effects of that? Is your team feeling the effects of that?
I thought they did a little bit. Like I said, that first portion of the game, and you watch it, we look a little sluggish, in my opinion. And again, I'm just being upfront about it. But I think as the game wore on, you could feel our guys, finding some energy and then coming out in the second half. And really, I thought they gave themselves a chance to win.
One more to follow up on the training staff, if you don't mind. Is there a chance RV comes back at some point, or are you guys progressing as though that?
We're hopeful, but again, this is something that's a court matter, and we have to just wait till whatever goes on and it eventually gets taken care of. Hopefully sooner than later.
So you haven't been given any kind of timetable?
No, we have no idea. We're removed from that.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Ron, since the bye week, what have you made of your receiving core in general? And if Terry has to miss time, what is your confidence level that those guys can step up?
I'm pretty confident. We had some guys, make some plays yesterday, and again, 11 different guys were targeted. So that's, to me, again, I think always a good thing. It's just, as you go through it, you'd love to have Terry because of who he is for us in terms of our offense. But we do feel we have enough playmakers to get out there and make some plays.
And how would you like to see Curtis get more involved?
Just using him the way that we know how to use him. The guy is a dynamic player, and believe me, when he gets rolling, gets the ball in his hands, he can be very explosive for us.
Thanks, Ron.
Ron, is there any update on any of the defensive ends in terms of protocol? Any expectation that they might be available next week?
Hopefully, to be honest with you, David, it's tough because we have to follow through with the rules, and there's testing daily and all these types of things that we have to go through, and hopefully, we'll catch some good news by the end of this week and see what happens as we start getting ready for Philly.
Sims had a lot more snaps yesterday. I know that part of that was injuries, but the touchdown was a great catch aside, but have you seen him kind of ratcheting up in the last few weeks to warrant both more snaps and more targets?
I think a little bit of both. He's done some good things. You see him constantly working in practice, doing the things that you need him to do to show you what he can do. And then as he makes more plays, he's a guy that does deserve to be out there a little bit more.
Thanks.
How do you think Taylor navigated the balance between taking what's there versus forcing the issue yesterday? I know that's a constant theme for him. So how do you think he did yesterday in that regard?
I thought he took his shots when he had chances. I do think though that once he presses a little bit, it does tend to look bad. A couple times yesterday, he threw in the coverage that we got fortunate the ball got dropped by the defenders. To be honest, it's one of those things that you got to be smart in your opportunities, and you can't try to force it, which he did do. But when he had some opportunities to make plays, he did, and that's what we're looking for as well. So it's kind of that, like you said, how does he balance it? Well, it's pretty tricky, but it's one of those things. If there's a couple plays earlier as opposed to a couple negatives, it's a little different. I thought we had the tunnel screen set up pretty well. We caught him in a zero blitz, and unfortunately, their guy went up and made a play. If he misses that ball, but if he doesn't tip it, who knows what happens at that point? But there's nothing you can do about that.
And every team in the NFL would love to get an early lead, but is that maybe of extra importance for your guys, just knowing how you like to play with leaning on the run game and keeping maybe Taylor's pass attempts down, controlling the clock?
Well, you do. Everybody wants to have a lead, but you can still control it by running the ball effectively at times. And so it's just one of those things that we struggle a little bit early, and once we settled in, and I think our guys did the things that we're capable of and played better. I do think we gave ourselves a chance.
Russell.
Hey, Ron. Excuse me. I guess this is more hypothetical, but you mentioned a couple of times, obviously, that 4th and 2 decision from the Cowboys 45 was, such a critical play. I think we all understand that. But curious, if you weren't down 11-0 at that point, do you think you would have still gone for it? Were you looking more for a spark there as opposed to something, anything else?
Well, I believe I'd have gone for it. I do. It's just unfortunate. It's one of those things that, okay, at worst, you expect not to get it. You don't expect to have what happened.
Were you, obviously on that play with Micah kind of, storming through, was there anything that I guess, maybe surprised you guys in that particular sequence, that they were maybe that aggressive in that spot, or no?
No, we just got to get the ball out and go from there.
Thanks.
Scott.
Ron, you mentioned it seemed like your team was tired to start the game against Dallas. Is this something you can maybe work on or ease up on during the week, during practice, to make sure they don't seem tired or come out tired, as you mentioned?
Well, I think the nice thing about it is we played at home this week, and we didn't have to travel cross country. So I think our guys, for the most part, got some rest last night. They'll get rest tonight and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get them a little bit fresher this week. And
the Gibson fumbles, anything particular he can work on? Is it type of deal where he holds the football and lunch and weight room? What do you do to kind of help ball security with a player like that that's having some issues?
Well, the hard part about it, I had a longtime NFL coach, Jim Skipper, who's one of my favorite coaches to have worked with me. Always used to say that the hardest thing guys have to learn to understand is that when they go to fall, when they're being tackled, that's when they have to truly understand when to protect the ball. Okay, because most times when guys are going to the ground, they're really bracing for the impact of hitting the ground as opposed to protecting the ball. And it kind of looks a little bit like that because a lot of his problems do seem to come when he is headed down. And so we'll just continue to work it. I think Randy does a great job in trying to teach it and get him to understand. And we'll continue to work on protecting the football.
Thanks, Ron.
Hey, Ron, after watching the tape, would you say this loss was more about how well Dallas played or more about the mistakes and missed opportunities and the sluggish start you guys had?
I think, Darren, you could really say it again, as I said last night, this was about two halves. We came out a little flat, a little tired. And so as we went through it, they did make some plays, obviously, and we didn't. As we got into the game and you saw the second half come out and you saw the energy with the spark we got, then you saw them play, I think, more to their abilities and more what they're capable of. It really, to me, was about two halves. And unfortunately, we didn't play the first half the way I'd hoped we would have.
And just as a quick follow-up, I don't think you answered this yesterday, but just what the Cowboys did leading up to the game, now that game is over, a chance to reflect on, the bench, the guarantee, and now that mindset that when you take on the Cowboys in a couple weeks.
Oh, I think, again, like I first said about it, more so than anything else, Darren, I really do think that's all interesting, and that's all the gamesmanship that goes with it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's part of the mind games that people like to play. And again, you can't let them get inside your head. It's really got to be about what happens on the field during the game on Sunday afternoons.
So no chance of you guys bringing your own bench to Dallas?
I didn't say that.